For the future? Yun Teng questioned. For the future? Yun Teng questioned. There was a coldness in Yun Teng's eyes. He stared at his father, the lord of the Yun clan. His father had promised to cultivate Qianxue before. He used to believe it was true and thought his father wanted to atone for Qianxue's father's death in this way. Obviously, he thought too much. Qianxue didn't go to the imperial city with them. She was sent away beforehand with many other outstanding ladies of the clan. But the person who picked them up was from the Zhong clan of the imperial city. How could Yun Ting not understand that the Yun clan, his family, had sold Qianyue in exchange for the family interest? So, you sent her to the Zhong clan for the future? The light of lightning exuded from Yun Teng's body. He tried to control his fury and snarled in a low voice. Qianyue is still young, but she has shown very unusual talent. The clan has already been indebted to her because of her father's death. Why do you still want to do this? He was even reluctant to believe that it was a thing the Yun clan of Luo City could do. They couldn't be more cold-blooded. It was Qianyue's extraordinary talent that made the Zhong clan pay attention to her. You are very clear about the Zhong clan's status. She will have a better future with them, continued Lord Yun. Father, I can't believe such brazen speech came out of your mouth, said Yun Teng, the light of thunder flowing around his body. In Emperor Qi's territory, everyone knows the cultivation method of the Zhong clan. Zhong Qiu, the current successor of Zhong clan, is notorious for his cultivation of ultimate will of ice. He cultivated in the pure yin power of the will of yin yang, even via women's bodies. People all tried to stay away from them. Only those shameless families send good women to the Zhong clan as maids in order to seek connection with them. I didn't expect that you, my father, also became one of them. It is so ridiculous. Being a maid was a subordinate job in the world of cultivation. Zhong Qiu of the Zhong clan hadn't married yet but had already had many maids to help him cultivate and gain fame. Such a way of cultivation should have been looked down upon, but the Zhong clan had a lofty status in heavenly mandate realm and never forced others, so powerful clans still often sent their women to the Zhong clan. Yun Ting thought such a thing would be far away from them. Although he knew Yun clan had been trying to establish a connection with the Zhong clan, he didn't expect they used such a despicable way. Watch your mouth. Lord Yun rebuked him. The Zhong clan cares for Qianyue's talent. Zhong Qiu is the strongest warrior in Emperor Qi's territory. If Qianyue stays with him in the future, she might have the chance to marry Zhong Qiu. I have also asked them to treat Qianyue nicely. In the future, even if she can't become his wife, as long as Qianyue performs well, it is not hard to become a mistress. I don't know what's wrong with it. You want her to please others to become a mistress? Said Yunin, tearing up, utterly broken-hearted. Just because her last name is not Yun. You are despicable, Yun Chong. It was your idea, right? Using my daughter to trade for your son's future. She glanced at the people in the crowd and finally, her crimson eyes fell upon Yun Chong and his son Yun Mo. Yun Mo was the most talented Saint Plain man of this generation in the Yun clan. All the Yun people had been resting their hopes on him, and since Lord Yun used her daughter to trade, the only possible reason was to help Yun Mo. You, shut up. Yun Mo took an emotionless glance at Yun and I and said coldly, all people of the Yun clan work for the benefit of the clan. You refused to hand the person over for your personal reasons and offended the Zhuqiu clan, so you are supposed to be the one to pay for it. I got news from the Imperial City that the Celestial Sword Li clan may seek connection with Zhuqiu clan via marriage. You must know that only Zhong clan is able to fight against the Zhuqiu clan, and Zhong Qiu of the Zhong clan is the only one comparable with that genius of the Zhuqiu clan. You have made mistakes without regard to our clan interest once, and now it's time for you to make a sacrifice. You are acting presumptuously here. I should warn you, don't forget what your last name is. Yi Futian observed all that happened silently. He now understood everything. Yun Chong, who had been acting nicely, finally showed his true colors. For the clan interest? Of course, he was willing to sacrifice other people's children instead of his own and even his child for the so-called clan. Was Qianyue taken to the Zhong clan and traded like goods? As a maid. The status of a maid was inferior. She had to listen to every order of the master and belonged to the master physically and mentally. How dare he say it was for Chen Yue? As Yun Teng had said, they were shameless. The crueler the cultivation land was, the more the people there worshipped self-interest. But he knew arguing was meaningless. The way of thinking was rooted in their veins. Despicable people wouldn't think of themselves as despicable, they would believe what they thought was all true. Otherwise, they would not have reached their current cultivation plane while questioning themselves. Sir, ma'am, arguing with them is meaningless. Let's go to the imperial city, Yi Futian said to Yun Teng and Yun and I. Qian Yue was not sent away for a long time. They could still catch up with her if they hurried. Do you have the right to speak here? An arrogant voice came. Yun Chang's son Yun Mo glanced at Yi Futian with coldness. Don't forget who caused the trouble. Yu Xing saw Yun Mo act like this and released the imposing life force from his body. Yi Futian looked quite calm. Although he had the thought to kill, he was still trying to control his fury. The speaker was the so-called future of the Yun clan. All things the Yun clan had done were for him. Qian Yue has been cultivating with me, so she is like a half-disciple of mine. If anything happens to her, I will not let any one of you go, Yi Futian said calmly, but there was a chill hidden under this calmness, which made one feel like the temperature had been lowered. The lord of the Yun clan looked at him. At this moment, he seemed to be able to perceive a special disposition from this true self-plain young man. His disposition seemed to be the leadership of a person in a lofty position with disdain for the Yun clan. He, as a nirvana-plane saint, suddenly perceived a keen sense of threat from this young man. Yun Chong and Yun Mo took a glance at Yi Futian with surprise. There seemed to be some contempt in his glance. He would not let anyone go? Who did he think he was? Yi Futian took one step forward and said to Yun Teng and Yun and I, we'd better hurry up. Don't waste time here. Okay, Yun Teng nodded and said, trying to restrain his anger. He wanted to leave with Yun and I. Someone blocked their way, but Lord Yun said, just let them go. He knew it was unfair to Yun Teng and Yun and I, but as Yun Chong had said, once the Celestial Swordly clan had a connection with the Zhuqiu clan through marriage, they who had a grudge with the Celestial Swordly clan would be in danger. They must get rid of this situation, and the only way they could find was to get close to the Zhong clan. There must be a sacrifice for the clan. We should depart too, continued Lord Yun. Yun Teng was just an unblemished saint, and he was of nirvana plane. They would reach the imperial city prior to Yun Teng, and they would inform the Zhong clan beforehand. Yun Teng wouldn't do anything bad, and he didn't want anything happen to Yun Teng either, since he was his heir. He could judge by Yun Teng's cultivation plane that Yun Teng couldn't do anything big even if he reached the imperial city. The large group of warriors of the Yun clan started their journey. They drove their divine instruments instead of walking and drew a flash of lightning on the sky dome. They directly surpassed Yun Teng and others and headed into the distance. Yun Teng and others looked quite embarrassed. According to the plan, they were supposed to depart with other clan members and reach the palace examination on time. Sir Yun, the date of the palace examination is approaching, right? Asked Yi Futian. His plan was also to keep up with the Yun clan warriors. Yes, nodded Yun Teng. If so, the Zhong clan will also prepare for the palace examination, and temporarily, Qian Yue should be safe. Sir and ma'am, you don't need to worry too much, said Yi Futian. Even though Yi Futian said so, Yun Teng and Yun Shang didn't look relaxed at all. How could they not worry about them? Even though nothing had happened, the situation was still. Even Yun clan didn't dare to provoke such a giant like Zhong clan, not to mention them. Would it work even if they reached the imperial city? But now they were not allowed to think that much. They could only go there first. Qian Yue is my half-disciple. I will handle it when we reach the imperial city, continued Yi Futian. Both Yun Teng and Yun Shang looked at him. Yi Futian seemed to be serious, just like when he threatened Lord Yun. He looked very confident. Okay, said Yun Shang, nodding. Qian Yue trusted Mr. Yi. She even wanted to be his disciple and follow him to cultivate. Every time after cultivation, Qian Yue often spoke highly of Mr. Yi in front of her. So, unconsciously, she also felt Yi Futian was a very unusual person. Now, since he said so, the hope was also growing in her heart. Or maybe he had the chance to do it. It at least was a wisp of hope no matter how bleak it was. In Emperor Qi's territory, in the solemn imperial city, above the sky dome, warriors traveled in the air. Today, all the warriors within Emperor Qi's territory gathered in the imperial city and headed to the core of the city. It was the start date of the palace examination of Emperor Qi's territory. The chosen ones would have the opportunity to cultivate with Emperor Qi and learn his teachings. Heavenly Mandate Realm was the ultimate Renhuang realm. It was also the one among the 3,000 realms of the Great Law, who honored the martial spirit most. Here, everyone pursued the law of martial arts. Such zeal spread across the endless realm. People from all directions would not miss this great event. Even then, many powers had already arrived beforehand. When the palace examination was about to start, Futian and the other 3 had arrived. However, they didn't directly head toward the place where the palace examination was held, but rather, they went to visit the Zhong clan, with Yun Teng as the lead. Compared with the palace examination, they cared more about Yun Qianyue's safety. As for the palace examination, they did not care for it. Their speed was extremely fast. They were so worried that something would happen to Yun Qianyue that they moved at the fastest pace. Finally, when the palace examination began, they had reached the Zhong clan residence in the imperial city. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Futian they reached the Zhong clan and were blocked by guards of the residence. Futian they reached the Zhong clan and were blocked by guards of the residence. Futian slightly nodded to Yun Teng and Yun and I, then walked up to the front of the guards and said, "We are from the Yun clan of Luo City. Before long, our lady Yun Qianyue came to your residence. This is her grandfather. This is her mother. Please pass the message that we came to visit her." The Zhong clan and the Zhuqiu clan had similar levels of power and owned 4 warriors of Nirvana Plane. Still, since the palace examination was held in the imperial city, all people of Emperor Qi's territory had headed toward the imperial palace, so the lord of Zhong clan was not at home. If Yun Qianyue had been in the Zhong clan, they would have taken her. The guard acted quite politely after hearing Futian's words. He slightly bowed and said, "Young Master Qiu has been taking Miss Qianyue with him since she reached the residence. They should be in the palace examination at the imperial palace. I can pass the message if you don't mind waiting for them in the residence." "No need. Thanks," Futian replied and turned around. Yun Teng and Yun Nin knew what he meant and followed him in another direction. Yun Nin looked quite pale. Was Qianyue chosen by Zhong Qiu just after she came? Qianyue hasn't stayed here for a long while, and the palace examination was after it. "Nothing should have happened to her," said Futian in a low voice. Yun and I nodded. She had no choice but to think in this way, even though she was just trying to comfort herself. Although Futian said he would handle this, was he really capable of saving Qianyue? Now, numerous high-level warriors were gathering in the palace examination. Even though 4 of them were all of Saint Plain, the situation was still too unfavorable to them. How could they rescue her? 4 of them flashed toward the direction of the imperial palace. After a while, they came to the outside of the palace and could see the busy crowd seen in front of them from a distance. Cultivators scattered in all directions in this large space. The palace examination of the imperial city was the largest event in Emperor Qi's territory. Futian wedged his way into the crowd. In front of him, there was an ancient golden road paved outside the imperial palace that headed toward a giant matrix plaza. Dazzling patterns were carved on its surface. There were warriors fighting over it. The other 3 sides were grandstands, where many warriors were watching the battle. The most powerful family clans of Emperor Qi's territory were sitting at the forefront. At this moment, the crowd bustled. Many warriors exclaimed. Futian followed the noise and looked toward that side. He saw a figure standing on the grandstand with hands behind his back. His disposition was outstanding. No doubt, Zhuqiu Yan is one of the most peerless figures in the territory. Among all his peers, only Zhong Qiu can compete with him, many people remarked. Futian heard people's praise and looked at the unusual young man on the grandstand. His clothes were blowing in the wind. He is Zhuqiu Yan. When people in the clan talk about the political marriage between the Zhuqiu clan and the celestial sword Li Chan, they are referring to Zhuqiu Yan and Li Rushuang. He is one of the most outstanding warriors of this generation in Emperor Qi's territory, Yun Teng said to Yi Futian while pushing his way forward. He had been anxiously looking toward the seats of honor in front of the grandstand, seeking something. Soon, Yun Teng found where the Zhong clan warriors were. His pupils slightly contracted. That familiar figure was there. Chen Yue. Yun Teng directly ignored the peerless person on the grandstand and fixed his eyes on the graceful figure, Yun Chen Yue. Chen Yue? Yun Shang saw her too. Yi Futian looked quite calm when seeing Yun Chen Yue. She stood there quietly. Beside her, there were countless powerful warriors. A handsome young man with fair skin sat in front of her. His skin was mesmerizingly fair, even fairer than women's. He was quite feminine looking. He was watching the battlefield. A slight chill exuded from his cold, calm eyes. He should be Zhong Qiu of the Zhong clan, and his unique temperament should be related to his cultivation. Ma'am, I think Chen Yue is fine, Yi Futian called her when he saw Yun and I was heading there. Yun Nin turned her head and looked at him. Now Chen Yue is there. Temporarily, nothing will happen to her, continued Yi Futian. Yun and I paused a second and nodded. Of course, she knew, but seeing her daughter there, she didn't have the heart to leave her there. Sir, what should we do? Asked Yun and I. Yi Futian was absorbed in thinking, and when he took a glance and noticed one person, he suddenly paused for a while. In front of him, some warriors sat in the row of seats of honor, and next to a young man sat a familiar person. You are here too, the whisper came to Yi Futian's ears. A smile immediately cracked on Yi Futian's face. He replied from a distance, Master, how did you get here? So the person who was sitting there was his master, Qi Shengeng. After the ancient path of space was destroyed, we were separated. Thinking that it must be hard to find everyone, I directly came to the imperial city and entered the imperial palace, so it would be much easier to meet any of you. Your brother is here too, said Qi Shengeng, smiling. Yi Futian looked up and found Mu Chunyang and Lu Chuan behind Master. Mu Chuanyang and Lu Chuan had been following Master for many years and knew Master much better than he did. They also took action very quickly, so they met Master faster than Yi Futian. Wu Yong arrived yesterday. He was on your left, said Qi Shengeng. Yi Futian looked toward the left and saw Wu Yong shoving his way forward in the crowd. He said, Lord Yi, is anyone else here? Asked Yi Futian. We don't know yet, but since today is the date of palace examination in Emperor Qi's territory, those who have received the information should know it is a good chance to meet, said Wu Yong. Yes. Yi Futian felt relieved. He asked Yun Teng, who was next to him, Are the people in front of us royal members? Yes, Yun Teng nodded and replied. Emperor Qi's princes and princesses have all attended the event in person. Emperor Qi might show up too. The people behind princes are all revered figures from the imperial palace. Yi Futian was finally relieved. Before, he was worried about how to get rid of all this safely, but now he didn't need to worry at all. Master was there, at the apex of Nirvana Plain, nearly invincible. Wherever he went, he was treated as the guest of honor even though it was in Emperor Qi's imperial palace. Sitting next to the prince, he could easily notice almost everyone. It was indeed a smart idea. Sir, just set your mind at ease. Many companions of mine from the Crimson Dragon realm have arrived. Nothing will happen to Chen Yue, said Yi Futian to Yun Teng. Yun Teng paused. He knew Yi Futian was from the Crimson Dragon realm, and he came with the Prince of Crimson Dragon realm. Did it mean the royal warriors of Crimson Dragon realm had come? This thought gave him a wisp of hope. Yi Futian's words made him have faith again. Yi Futian didn't take action immediately, but rather, he quietly observed everything in the crowd. The palace examination was held by the Zhuqiu clan and the Zhong clan. The Zhuqiu clan and the Zhong clan would also be in charge of deciding who to choose. All powers coordinated with each other, and finally, the most talented Saint Plain figures in Emperor Qi's territory would gather in this palace examination and fight each other, showing themselves to the public. Finally, the Zhuqiu clan and the Zhong clan would make the decision of who would be summoned by Emperor Qi in person. That was why a huge political power was formed with Zhuqiu clan and Zhong clan as the center, and these two clans stood on the top throughout Emperor Qi's territory. All the cultivators had thoroughly prepared and performed well during the combat in the palace examination. Of course, nobody could surpass Zhuqiu Yan of the Zhuqiu clan and Zhong Qiu of the Zhong clan. From time to time, one could hear the audience's praise to them from the grandstand. Many people worshipped these two people's talent and regarded them as the goal. However, many also knew that even if they didn't attend the palace examination, they would still become Emperor Qi's disciple and learn his teachings. Thus, they still should show their abilities during the palace examination. Yi Futian delivered voice to Qi Xiangang and made some inquiries. At this moment, next to Qi Xiangang, the Prince Qiyu asked him, "Sir, what do you think of the warriors that attended the palace examination today?" He showed great respect to him. The first day he met Qi Xiangang in the imperial palace, the prince was impressed by his cultivation knowledge and his temperament. Since his last name was also Qi, the prince invited him to be one of his teachers. Qi Xiangang had promised to give guidance to him, but he also said he wouldn't stay for long. "Their performances were passable," said Qi Xiangang. "But they are not strong." "What kind of person do you mean, sir?" asked the Prince of Qi. "It is hard to tell, but you will understand it soon, Your Highness," replied Qi Xiangang. "I can tell your standards are very high. I have a rough idea of what you mean, but I don't know if I have a chance to see one here," said the Prince of Qi, laughing. "Mr. Qi's standard is so high that nobody in the palace examination can meet it. I am inquisitive as to what kind of person you are talking about," the Lord of Zhuqiu clan said slowly after hearing the dialogue between Qi Xiangang and the prince. The Lord was the man standing on the peak of Emperor Qi's territory. Zhuqiu Yan was also one of the most talented warriors among all clans. However, after arrival, Qi Xiangang was esteemed by the emperor and beloved by princes. The Lord of the Zhuqiu clan had been curious how powerful this emperor's guest of honor was. Qi Xiangang made it sound like no one in the palace examination could meet his standard for a strong warrior. "You might have the chance to meet at one today," said Qi Xiangang. "Really?" said the prince, laughing. "If so, I am looking forward to it. The palace examination is near its end. Is there still any talented person who has yet come to the stage?" After speaking, he looked up into the distance. After several battles, the participants of the palace examination all came out. The last two warriors showed up. One of them was Yun Mo from the Yun clan of Luo City. Seeing him, warriors of the Yun clan all got quite excited. The chance was here. They all hoped Yun Mo would not disappoint them. Yun Mo indeed tried his best for this battle. He perfectly displayed all his abilities and won over the opponent with a marvelous performance. After the battle, a tinge of smile was seen on his smile. He looked toward where warriors of the Yun clan were. A soft wind blew across his face. He was standing there, one step further toward his goal. "Good," a warrior of the Zhong clan commented. He walked to the prince and asked, "Your Highness, what do you think of all the participants of the palace examination today?" Prince Qi took a look at Qi Xiangang and turned to the huge crowd around him. "What do you think?" "Our Emperor Qi's territory indeed has countless talents," someone said. Other people also echoed and gave praise. "Are these the so-called talents specially selected from everywhere of Emperor Qi's territory to attend the palace examination?" Suddenly, a voice came from the crowd. It was not loud, but it was very clear. It came into everyone's ears, and all of a sudden, the noisy crowd quieted down. Very soon, the place fell silent. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Was he jeering at the palace examination attendees' abilities? Was he jeering at the palace examination attendees' abilities? Was he turning his nose up at all these elites of Emperor Qi's territory? Numerous pairs of eyes roamed over the crowd, seeking who the speaker was, and soon, people fixed their eyes on one person. The young man with silver hair strode forward. He was the only one walking in the crowd and looked very conspicuous. Not to mention others, after hearing this, even Yun Teng and Yun Ni, who were standing beside Yi Futian, had strange looks on their faces. Wasn't Yi Futian the person who told them to stay calm and be low profile? He told them to cool down, but now, he came onto the stage in this way. All of a sudden, he attracted the attention of everybody, including the big figures of Emperor Qi's territory. Yu Sheng closely went behind Yi Futian. Seeing the scene, Yun Teng and Yun Ni had to brace themselves to catch up with them. Wu Yong quietly followed them at a distance. Before people came to realize it, Yi Futian had taken a step and had strode over to the fighting platform of the palace examination right under their gazes. Sir Yi, Yun Qianyue murmured to herself. She was standing on the side of warriors of the Zhong clan. Watching the man with silver hair step on the high platform, she felt disquieted. When she was forcibly sent to the Zhong clan by her clan, she thought she had been resigned to fate. Her father's death had already totally broken her heart. She chose to give up herself. She had decided to become a stronger person at all costs until one day, she could get revenge for herself. However, when she had already made the decision, that gentle and handsome figure showed up again. It was just that in contrast with his usual mild appearance, at this moment, he looked more unruly, with a pair of sharper eyes. Was this his true color? But in the situation like today, if he came for her, he was risking his life. Do you know him? Seeing Yun Qianyue was distracted, Zhong Qiu slowly asked her. His tone was just like him, with a kind of coldness that made one shiver. Yun Qianyue could sense the malice in his tone, so she said, Sir Yi is just a guest in my family. This is not his business. Zhong Qiu didn't say anything. How dare a guest in the family jeer at the people in the palace examination? Where are you from? Who allowed you to step on the fighting platform? The host of the palace examination from the Zhuqiu clan yelled. He stepped out and stood above the void sky, scolding him for what he was doing. He looked quite imposing. The might was released from his body and fell upon Yi Futian. Yi Futian's white clothes were blowing in the wind, his feet firmly planted on the ground. He took a glance at him coldly, then looked ahead to the crowd and said, If His Highness asks me what I think about the palace examination, I would say the palace examination this time includes people who sold girls in their clan in exchange for the vacancies, people who endured ill treatment to get a chance to enter the exam, people who cultivated through the flesh of women. How can you tell me these people are the most talented ones in Emperor Qi's territory? Yi Futian's words immediately raised an uproar. People all started talking, and the vast space was suddenly full of noise. There was someone who dared to point out the shady deals behind the palace examination. Everyone was clear that these things could not be put on the table. Every year, there were indeed a lot of shady deals behind the talent selection process. Many people used all means possible to get the chance to approach Emperor Qi and learn from him. No matter what, even though there were many dirty deals behind the scenes, the final chosen ones were still outstanding. The palace examination was still a big event, and normal people wouldn't care about what happened off stage. Since anyone who spoke the truth would not simply offend one or two powers, it was equal to bringing about their destruction. Not to mention that absolute equality never existed on Earth. There was order in the world, but there was always a shadow behind the sun. All this was covered up nicely. Was Emperor Qi really unaware of it? He would not ask about all these things, and he didn't have the time to do it unless he didn't cultivate and focused on these trivial things every day. For many people, it was a big event that might affect their fortune, but for Emperor Qi, it was just one thing that happened for one day in his life. Warriors of the Yun clan all looked sullen. Yun Mo was just one step away from the goal, but now Yi Futian came out and caused trouble again. In addition to them, Li Rushuang of the Celestial Sword Li clan and warriors of the Zhuqiu clan and Zhong clan also put on surly faces and stared at Yi Futian coldly. As everyone had speculated, Yi Futian offended everyone with just a few words. It was basically equal to seeking death. Unscrupulous! The warrior of the Zhuqiu clan stepped down. His intimidating life force crushed Yi Futian's body. Yi Futian raised his head and took a glance at him. Prince Qiyu ordered, "Back off." The lord of the Zhuqiu clan took a look at Qiyu. Just now, Qi Xiangang seemed to have said something to him. Qiyu looked at Yi Futian. He somehow roused his interest. Before, Sir Qi said he might have the chance to see one. Did he mean this person? The warrior of the Zhuqiu clan had to withdraw. Futian took one more step forward. His eyes fell on Yunemo and said, Yunemo, from the Yun clan of Luo City. In order to create the chance for him to attend the palace examination and seek connections with larger powers, his clan sent a lady to the larger clan to serve as their servant, and that is why he could stand on the stage of the palace examination and enjoy others' worship. Do you think he deserves to stand here? Asked Futian. Yun Mo's face now looked extremely sullen. He was the most outstanding one among this generation of the Yun clan, which was why the clan paid the expensive price for him to study beneath Emperor Qi's throne. Now, when he was almost approaching his goal, Futian came out and brought the thing to light. He just felt his face was burning under people's gazes. Those pairs of eyes were so piercing. It is the right of our clan to decide where to send our ladies for cultivation. I don't know why it sounds so jarring, coming out of your mouth. I have stepped on the fighting platform and proved that I could attend the palace examination. Still, in your eyes, the palace examination of Emperor Qi's territory is nothing but a deal? Yun Mo, step by step, approached Futian and questioned him. The light of thunder was shining in the sky, devouring the void air. The scene was appalling. Not to mention that you escaped death under the protection of my clan, but you are not grateful and are trying to tarnish our name here. How should we deal with you? Yun Mo's voice was extremely intimidating. The horrifying thunder might of the great law fell and grew stronger and stronger. I have taken Yun Qianyue of the Yun clan as my disciple, said Futian. Without the order of her parents, the order of her grandfather, the order of her teacher, the Yun clan doesn't have the right to arrange her destiny. I demand the Yun clan retrieve the order and send Qianyue back. You don't deserve it. Yun Mo's tone was still aggressive. Futian looked in the direction of the Yun clan and saw Yun Chong and other people's cold faces. Their stares toward Futian was full of desire to kill him. They didn't repent for what they had done at all. As if for them, Yun Mo's future was more important than anything else. Yun Qianyue's future deserved to be sacrificed for the family's interest. Because they all thought from their standpoints. If that was the case, Futian looked toward Qiyu's direction. He slightly bowed and said, Your Highness, my apologies for disturbing you. It's just my disciple was forcibly taken away from home. Am I allowed to bring justice for her? As you like, said Qiyu quite relaxingly, as if he didn't mind Futian causing an uproar. As long as he had the ability. Thank you, Your Highness. He cupped his hands as a salute. His words were quite pushy, but he had very good manners. You want to fight me, eh? Asked Yunemo. He took one more step ahead. His cultivation level was comparable with Futian's. Futian took a glance at Yunemo coldly and said, You don't deserve it. Seeing Futian's disdainful look, Yunemo turned sullen. A loud boom came out, and suddenly, the killing will swept across the world. He was the strongest warrior of this generation in the Yun clan, and he didn't deserve it? Boom. The loud boom made people's hearts thump rapidly. A figure rushed out from Futian's behind. It was Yu Sheng. The fighting platform trembled as if it was about to break. Yu Sheng came in front of Yunemo with a few strides. Seeing him coming, Yunemo held out one palm, and suddenly, all the great law of thunder between the sky and earth converged in his palm. Innumerable divine thunder fell and bombed toward Yu Sheng's body. However, Yu Sheng seemed to be covered with the armor of the demonic law. The thunder fell and circled above his body. It was as if they were slowly being devoured. A doctrine saint dared to ignore the might of a true self-saint? Many people thought to themselves and looked stunned. How could his human body be so strong? Yunemo looked sullen. The appalling might of thunder converged on the center of his palm, devouring the light of destruction. Boom! Lightning flashed across the sky dome at an unbelievably fast pace. Suddenly, the thunder in his palm exploded and darted forward. All of a sudden, the lightning illuminated the sky. Yu Sheng raised one arm. Suddenly, tens of thousands of demonic deities showed up. He drew out a demonic palm print which suppressed the eternal land and sealed the sky. They too collided with each other at a short distance. The appalling loud sound resonated between the sky and earth, making people's eardrums tremble. Bam! Another loud boom. Their bodies were separated. Yusheng stood up firmly. The demonic armor on his body seemed to be smashed by the thunder, and his sleeves were also torn. However, Yun Mo's body was blown away. Even though his attack was powerful enough, his defense was not that strong, and he was unable to bear such an intimidating strike. He was not able to kill Yusheng with one strike, and his arm had been sprained. Yusheng again took a step forward harshly and grasped Yun Mo's sprained arm. Yun Mo's body was lying in the air. Yusheng grasped his arm and lifted Yun Mo's body. Numerous pairs of eyes froze there. "Yun Mo!" yelled Yun Chong. He rushed to the battlefield, fast like lightning. At the same time, a figure in white rushed out and thrust out the halberd of time and space with the aura of all stars, blocking Yun Chong's way. "Go away!" bellowed Yun Chong. The might of thunder fell, trying to destroy Yi Futian's body, but the halberd pierced into the sky. It broke everything and rushed to his front, halting his body. Their bodies collided. Over the high platform, Yusheng's fist smashed down. After a shriek, Yun Mo's body fell down feebly. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Boom! After a loud boom, Yun Mo's bones were smashed into pieces. Lying there dead, he was not able to exert strength at all. Boom! After a loud boom, Yun Mo's bones were smashed into pieces. Lying there dead, he was not able to exert strength at all. He couldn't damage Yusheng's defense, but just with one strike, Yusheng's attack destroyed his defenses and vanquished him most forcefully. This doctrine Saint forcibly won over Yun Mo of the true self-plane. Did the battle prove the real strength of a person who attended the palace examination? People thought of Yi Futian's jeer before the fight and felt it even more jarring. On the other side, a collision also happened between Yi Futian and Yun Chong under the gazes of numerous pairs of eyes in shock. Yun Chong, as an unblemished saint, was shaken back to the place where warriors of the Yun clan gathered. He was an unblemished saint of the third level in the Saint Plane. Yi Futian, with silver hair, stood there imposingly with the halberd of time and space in hand, his white clothes blowing in the wind. His temperament was outstanding, as if he could defend the attacks from tens of thousands of men. Yun Mo didn't deserve fighting with him. Even his father, Yun Chong, of the unblemished saint, was shaken away. How could Yun Mo fight with Yi Futian? "You sold my disciple in exchange for your son's future," Yi Futian shouted in a cold and intimidating voice, solemnly raising the halberd to the sky. "Do you deserve her?" Yi Futian's voice was like a slap on the faces of all warriors from the Yun clan. They sent Yi Futian's disciple to serve as a servant in exchange for Yun Mo's future, but ironically, Yun Mo couldn't bear even one blow. Besides, Yi Futian's disciple herself was a lady of the Yun clan, which made Yun clan look even more despicable and useless. The scene that just happened indeed put warriors of the Yun clan to shame. They couldn't be more embarrassed. They claimed Yun Mo was the genius, the strongest warrior of this generation of Yun clan, and even traded a clan lady in exchange for a chance to better cultivate Yun Mo. But at this moment, Yi Futian slapped on their faces, in front of the whole world. Besides, nobody had expected Yi Futian and Yusheng to be this powerful. A person like him doesn't deserve cultivating. If he studied under Emperor Qi, that would be a disgrace to his majesty, said Yi Futian. He should be deprived of his cultivation. You are too presumptuous. The lord of the Yun clan yelled and took one step out. The terrifying Nirvana plane life force enveloped toward Yi Futian and Yusheng. Yi Futian could perceive the Nirvana life force. He pointed the halberd of time and space toward him. At the same time, a person jumped into the air from the crowd. It was Wu Yong who showed up, the life force of the same Nirvana plane released from his body. Do you want me to exterminate your whole clan? Yi Futian spat out these cold words, the halberd of time and space swallowing and emitting horrifying light. His voice made all warriors of the Yun clan shiver. It was not only aiming at Yun Mo. Just one sentence, do you want to exterminate your whole clan? How aggressive. As if he could use one sentence to decide the life and death of Yun clan of Luo City, exterminating the whole clan. While a Nirvana saint was just standing next to him. Yi Futian didn't even say anything, and he directly showed up, as if he had been guarding nearby. They all had to guess Yi Futian's real identity. He was accompanied by a nirvana plane figure. They even began to feel funny that they used to think Yi Futian needed their protection. Had he been faking? Yi Futian directly stunned all warriors of the Yun clan with one sentence. Even the nirvana plane lord of the Yun clan perceived an invisible pressure from him. No wonder he once absent-mindedly felt Yi Futian was a gallant figure in a high position. Now it looked like his feeling was right. It was not an illusion. He is an outsider. He had no right to intervene affairs of the Yun clan. Yun Chong shouted, noticing the lord had the intention of quitting. It was not because he had the courage, just because his son Yunemo was in Yusheng's hands and could be hurt at any time. No wonder he felt anxious. After the words, he turned around toward another direction. Yusheng's arms smashed down again. Yunemo let out a shriek full of agony, and soon Yusheng threw him to the people of the Yun clan. Remember what you said, for the family? Yi Futian reminded Yun Chong with his back to him. Didn't it sound great? Being great while sacrificing others? How gross it was. People's eyes all fell upon Yi Futian. Today was the day of the palace examination, a big event in Emperor Qi's territory. However, at this moment, it seemed that Yi Futian was the only hero of this palace examination. But since Prince Qiyu asked Yi Futian to take charge of this, other people would not intervene. At this moment, Yi Futian was heading forward. He took a glance at Li Rushuang from the Celestial Sword Li clan and said, Li Rushuang from the Celestial Sword Li clan claimed to kill me and threatened to capture me from the Yun clan. Celestial Sword Li clan, it is up to you. He even didn't pause his steps while walking, as if he had never kept Li Rushuang in mind. But Li Rushuang had tried to kill him twice, undermining the Yun clan with the power of Zhuqiu clan, threatened to capture him and found a connection with the Zhuqiu clan. Her ambition was accomplished by treading on others. Then it could only be destroyed. As for her talent and her aloofness, Yi Futian was not interested at all. Hearing Yi Futian's cold words, Li Rushuang turned sullen. Was he threatening the Celestial Sword Li clan? Just in one sentence? Too presumptuous, as if he didn't give a shit about all the talents in the palace examination. The Zhuqiu clan was the one that the Celestial Sword Li clan hung on, and today, Yi Futian seemed to be ready to offend both the Zhuqiu clan and the Zhong clan. The palace examination has been going on for many years. I've never before seen a person as presumptuous as you. A voice came at this moment. People were slightly stirred when they saw the speaker, Zhuqiu Yan. The young man was the most outstanding man of the Emperor Qi's territory, the joint strongest warrior, along with Zhong Qiu in this palace examination. They were also respectively the Zhuqiu clan's future and the Zhong clan's future. Zhuqiu Yan stared at Yi Futian. Not to mention Yi Futian claimed that the Emperor Qi's territory had no strong warriors. Li Rushuang was the woman chosen by the Zhuqiu clan, and if nothing wrong happened, she would become his wife. How dare Yi Futian threaten the Celestial Sword Li clan to treat Li Rushuang just with a few words? Yi Futian took an emotionless glance at him and ignored him, kept walking toward another direction, the direction where warriors of the Zhong clan were. The Zhuqiu clan and the Zhong clan were the joint highest powers in Emperor Qi's territory. Yi Futian stood in front of warriors of the Zhong clan. He looked at that elegant figure behind Zhong Qiu and said, Qinyue, come back. Yun Qinyue looked at that man in white, her eyes wet. She had already lost hope, but she didn't expect that man would show up today in such an imposing manner, in front of the world, to seek justice for her. But suddenly, Yun Qianyue perceived a slight pressure. In front of her, a slight cold will was slowly being released from Zhong Qiu's body. The coldness infused into her bones and veins steadily and made her unable to move. She was still young, just of sage plain. Zhong Qiu could easily control her with a wisp of will. Zhong Qiu didn't turn his head to her. He fixed his stare on Yi Futian and said, She belongs to the Zhong clan now. He doesn't care what Yi Futian was. Here was Emperor Qi's territory. The Zhuqiu clan and the Zhong clan had prospered in Emperor Qi's territory for many years. The Zhuqiu clan and the Zhong clan were at their apex within this territory. Yi Futian just came here and disdained everyone, ignoring all the existing rules. What he said was too demeaning to the Zhong clan. The reputation of the Zhong clan could even be ruined. The Yun clan of the Luo city volunteered to send the girl to the Zhong clan residence, but now he used it as evidence of the Zhong clan's ill repute. Yi Futian heard Zhong Qiu's words and saw him look straight at him, but he didn't pause his steps. Numerous pairs of eyes fell on him. In front of him was Zhong clan, the strongest power of Emperor Qi's territory, the clan which stood shoulder to shoulder with the Zhong clan. Was he ready to directly confront them? But so far, people still had no idea what the cards in his hand looked like. Even if he was able to win over Zhong Qiu, how could he get rid of the situation's safety since he had offended everybody? Belong to Zhong clan? Who decided her destiny? Yi Futian looked at Zhong Qiu and asked, "The old codgers in Yun clan, or you?" "No need to tell you," said Zhong Qiu. Yi Futian laughed after hearing Zhong Qiu's words. He took back the halberd of time and space in his hand and said, "Is he the strongest warrior in the palace examination?" Yi Futian's silver hair was flying, the wind rose on the fighting platform, and his clothes were blowing. He looked at Zhong Qiu and said, "I heard you cultivate with women's bodies as your cauldron? Your cultivation method is filthy, your way of doing things is filthy too. I don't know how your ability is, but from your conduct, I know you don't deserve to be a saint. Ironically, you are peerless in the palace examination." He turned around when he talked and took a few steps back. When people were confused by what he was doing, he again turned around, looked at Zhong Qiu and said, "To deal with a cultivator like you, one strike should be enough." The crowd again went dead silent. Yi Futian stood still with hands behind back and said to Zhong Qiu, "Get out. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible." One hit was all it had taken. One hit was all it had taken. Everyone was speechless. If Yi Futian had been the one saying that to the others, it probably would not have left much of an impact. However, the one he was facing was Zhong Qiu, the most extraordinary of saints to be found in Emperor Qi's territory. He was also the future leading figure of the Zhong clan. Zhong Qiu had exhibited extremely terrifying combat prowess back at the palace examination. Every single one who was of his plane had been overwhelmed when they had fought him. In Emperor Qi's territory, both Zhuqiu Yan and Zhong Yan were like nearly unconquerable mountains. However, that man who had just come had told Zhong Qiu to get out there in a very uncouth manner. Eerie, hostile intent was gradually since being sent in Yi Futian's direction. Those from the Zhong clan sported cold expressions. There was hardly any expression seen on the pale face of Zhong Qiu, but his eyes would have sent bone-chilling cold to anyone looking at them. Get out there? One hit would suffice? No one had dared to say anything like that to him before. Just who did he think he was? A chuckle was heard all of a sudden. There seemed to be hints of ridicule within, but that person did not say anything. Many saw that the one who had chuckled sarcastically was none other than Zhuqiu Yan. While Zhong Qiu was indeed his rival, the other man was nonetheless just as renowned as he was. Despite their rivalry, he acknowledged what Zhong Qiu was capable of. Yi Futian had disrespected both him and Zhong Qiu one after another, and that could no longer have been described as brash and insolent alone. Yi Futian looked at him, and Zhuqiu Yan responded in kind, returning his gaze plainly. "If you're interested in trying your hand as well, you're welcome to." Yi Futian's words caused the plain smile on Zhuqiu Yan's lips to gradually disappear. Big talk indeed. What happens if you can't pull off what you claimed you'd be able to pull off then? Zhuqiu Yan's face turned increasingly glum. The prince, Qiyu, did not interfere. It was easy to tell that the prince intended to see how capable they were as well. If they were unable to put Yi Futian in his place, the prince would also see it and think they were incompetent. However, both the Zhuqiu clan and the Zhong clan were top-notch forces found in Emperor Qi's territory, and that day was the day of the palace examination. Yi Futian had essentially stolen their thunder by behaving in such an uncouth manner. If he was unable to do what he claimed, then death, of course, a mighty one from the Zhuqiu clan said. The one who'd said so was none other than that mighty one who had walked with Li Rishuang back then. His tone was cold, eerie, and full of killing intent. "You'll only have one chance at this," Zhong Qiu said at the same time. He gradually rose and walked towards Yi Futian. He would not have minded fighting Yi Futian just to see what enabled that man to be so insolent. However, Yi Futian had provoked him to do battle in such an insulting manner. If he dared to be that presumptuous, then he would only give that man a single chance. One hit. If you're unable to do so, you die. Zhong Qiu rose and walked towards Yi Futian. Every step he took caused the place around him to turn increasingly cold. The eerie coldness seemed to slow the senses of everyone around him. The will of the great path seeped into Yi Futian's body, affecting his blood flow. It even began to slow his senses, as if the great path in his surroundings had actually begun to slow down. The will of the great path affected the senses of others, making it seem like he was the only one left in that space. Sir Yi. Yun Qinyue's face turned pale. Yi Futian sought justice for her, and she was naturally grateful and touched because of that. However, she knew well just how powerful both Suqiu Yan and Zhong Qiu were. She had witnessed Zhong Qiu's battle not long ago. While she indeed believed in Yi Futian's powers, she was unable to fathom whether it was possible to unleash just a single hit and end it all. There were just too many variables at work with that one hit. Unless the difference in powers was overwhelmingly great, ending it all with just a single hit would not be possible. Furthermore, from the way the Zuoqiu clan and the Zhong clan behaved, they did not intend to fight Yi Futian fair and square. If that one hit did not work, they would really move out and kill Yi Futian, showing no mercy whatsoever. If Yi Futian really failed to do what he said he was capable of and both the Zuoqiu clan and the Zhong clan were out to kill him, the prince would still probably keep his hands to himself. The mighty one of the Zhong clan shot a cold glance at Yun Qinyue. His eyes seemed to have a faint hint of coldness in them, causing her to shiver all over. She was able to sense clearly the killing intent within the eyes of the mighty one from the Zhong clan. Those people really sought to kill Yi Futian for what he had done. Yi Futian had truly offended the two greatest forces in Emperor Qi's territory. She looked at Yi Futian, who appeared totally unfazed despite being under tremendous pressure from those two top-notch forces. His eyes remained the same, and he, standing proud, seemed to be saying that he was confident to take on whatever changes were to come. The will of the great path of entropy was unleashed. That formless, eerily cold power was shattered right away. The battle between saints was done in the face of the might of the great path. The way of entropy was unbelievably overbearing. Despite that the attacks that Zhong Qiu practiced were extremely cold and the coldness was everywhere, they remained incapable of invading his body. Yi Futian extended his hand, and stars were conjured all over the place, making it look like the place had been turned into a world of stars. A great many constellations appeared all of a sudden in the sky above. The light of constellations orbited with Yi Futian at the center, seemingly moving with a mystical tune, and a raging might shrouded the place. A halberd of the great path appeared on Yi Futian's palm. The boundless light of the stars coursed, and that weapon pulsed with frightening powers within an instant, seemingly capable of breaking and subduing everything it touched. The light pulsing on the weapon alone made Zhong Qiu sense tremendous pressure. His eyes turned severe, and he burst with coldness all over him, which was then conjured into a storm of cold. Cold, eerie currents swept at Yi Futian's body. The method he trained in was on the extreme yin side of the spectrum of yin and yang, capable of killing without alerting the target. Boom! The stars all over the sky seemed to burst into flames right at that very instant. The devastating halberd of the great path lit up with true flames of the sun, with extremely overbearing will of the great path bursting through it, as if it were out to overpower Zhong Qiu's eerie cold. If Zhong Qiu took the path of extreme yin and extreme cold, then Yi Futian sought to respond by bringing the power of extreme yang and extreme heat to bear. Boom! Zhong Qiu's life spirit appeared, which was a black turtle sacred beast. That terrifying will of the great path coalesced into solid currents with him at the center, circling around him, and every single current caused any place they passed to turn completely dead. When that many currents were coursing about at the same time, the scene was nothing short of harrowing. At that moment, Yi Futian stepped forward, and their surroundings shook violently. Zhong Qiu's heart seemed to shake alongside Yi Futian's steps. Even one hit would be too much for the likes of you. Yi Futian walked towards Zhong Qiu, zipping past the space within an instant. The pressure that Xing Kai had put on him had been stronger than what Zhong Qiu, at the moment, was able to muster. Yi Futian had still been a proving holiness saint back then, and now he was already a saint of true self. There was no way Zhong Qiu could have won against him. The stars above the sky orbited at that very moment where Yi Futian walked. The light of the constellation of the Great Path rained down at the same time, crushing everything around him, and he charged, making it seem like the light of ancient symbols was raining down on Zhong Qiu. At that moment, Zhong Qiu felt as if he were caught in the world of stars. Every single beam of light of the Great Path shot at him, like a star coming down on him. Countless stars rained down as they burned with true flames of the sun, making them capable of raising everything they hit. His expression finally changed. When Yi Futian truly brought his might to bear, Zhong Qiu finally realized just how terrifying things could have been. That pale face of his seemed to turn even paler. Countless currents rushed at Yi Futian in a frenzy, yet they seemed insignificant before Yi Futian's attacks. He roared, and a huge black turtle appeared, freezing the entire place as he was shrouded within, turning his attacks into defense. Their surroundings continued to shake, and thousands of clashes seemed to happen within a single moment. The black turtle began to crack, and a holy halberd burst through, tearing the sacred beast at the center and penetrating what was inside. No, Zhong Qiu became frightened. He cranked his powers to be the limit, intending to freeze the space over, yet the black turtle continued to be destroyed. The halberd looked unstoppable. With a loud rumble, the life spirit crumbled altogether, and Yi Futian's halberd went straight into Zhong Qiu's body. Zhong Qiu looked horrified. He then looked up at Yi Futian and saw Yi Futian push his hand forward lightly. Devastating power burst and tore through everything in Zhong Qiu's body. He would have him dead if he was unable to pull it off, huh? What about if he was actually able to do what he claimed to be able to? A person was sent flying and fell limply to the ground. Zhong Qiu's face was filled with utter terror. He sensed that everything in his body had been destroyed, even his life spirit had been taken apart by Yi Futian's attack. Yi Futian had thoroughly crippled him. "You're unfit for cultivation," Yi Futian said. Countless people watched that scene with baffled expressions, and their hearts raced. One hit. Yi Futian had truly only used one attack, and that attack had utterly overwhelmed his opponent. Was that really Zhong Qiu? Zhong Qiu of the Zhong clan had looked so impossibly weak back there. He was unable to take even a single hit. Zuoqiu Yen watched, feeling as if his mind had been rattled. His expression was a very ugly one. He was unable to imagine what would have happened if he had been the one to fight just moments ago. Sir Yi. Yun Qianyue watched the scene with a shocked expression, finding Yi Futian to be impossibly powerful. While she had gone to seek guidance from Yi Futian many times before, she had never seen what Yi Futian was truly capable of, and in that moment, she had finally seen it. Even someone as powerful as Zhong Qiu was unable to withstand even a single hit. Mighty ones of the Zhong clan at her side flashed to Zhong Qiu's side, looking into the extent of Zhong Qiu's injuries. Their expressions turned cold, and killing intent was sensed sweeping out. The killing intent became blatant after they saw that Zhong Qiu was utterly crippled. The mighty ones from the Zhong clan headed in Yi Futian's direction and said coldly, "You behaved in such an unbridled manner in the palace examination. Did you even have any respect for the prince or anyone else around you?" That man's killing intent was frightening, as if he intended to kill Yi Futian right where he stood. Many sweated on Yi Futian's behalf after sensing the terrifying might of a holiness of nirvana bursting through. They all wondered if the man who had crippled Zhong Qiu with one single attack would be able to walk off the stage alive. "Try making a move against my student if you dare." A towering might shrouded the entire place, pressing down on the holiness of nirvana. Everyone sensed the terrifying pressure within an instant. The holiness of nirvana of the Zhong clan turned around to look at the one who had spoken. He was not alone, as everyone looked toward the source of the voice. A figure appeared at the prince's side and slowly walked out. It was none other than Qi Shengang. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., Please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. When Qi Xiangeng walked out, his plain bearing changed all of a sudden. Despite wearing a plain long robe, he felt as if he had merged with the heavenly path as he walked. When Qi Xiangeng walked out, his plain bearing changed all of a sudden. Despite wearing a plain long robe, he felt as if he had merged with the heavenly path as he walked. A terrifying might shrouded the holiness of nirvana of the Zhong clan. At that moment, countless people had their eyes on Qi Xiangeng. He stopped and stood still, looking as if he were the only being left in that space. His student. The holiness of nirvana of the Zhong clan naturally knew of Qi Xiangeng. He had become renowned in the royal palace as of late and was highly valued by the prince, so much so that the prince often sought his guidance and training. Even those from the Zhuqiu clan and the Zhong clan were able to sense a looming threat from him. That man seemed to be out to fight for status in Emperor Qi's territory with them, and it did seem like he had the power to do so. Both the Zhuqiu clan and the Zhong clan were very wary of Qi Xiangeng. However, none of them expected that that powerful being was the teacher of that unbelievable genius who had just stepped onto the stage in such a presumptuous manner and taken care of Zhongqiu with a single hit. Those from the two forces became even more glum at that thought. To them, everything looked like it had been deliberately arranged by Qi Xiangeng. He'd had his student rise by stepping on the heads of all the others, making his name known throughout Emperor Qi's territory while shocking everyone else, allowing those from the royal palace see just how extraordinary his student was. Everything that had happened that day seemed to make sense at that thought, as if that was how things were supposed to be. The Yun clan was but one excuse. The newcomer's true objective had been to pass the palace examination and rise by stepping on their heads. What had just happened made it very easy for people to harbor such thoughts. The truth, however, was that while Qi Xiangeng had indeed been waiting for Yi Futian, he had not known his student would show up in such a manner. But then again, from what Yi Futian said, he realized what was actually happening. A student of the younger generation of Yi Futian in the heavenly mandate realm had been forcefully gifted to others as a servant girl. Everyone in that vast place turned their eyes to Qi Xiangeng as their hearts continued to race. That man who had just walked beside the prince seemed to possess extraordinary powers. The bursting of his might seemed to be that of the heavens, shrouding the entire place and subjecting everyone to that formless pressure. So this was Yi Futian's backing then. No wonder he dared to provoke all major forces with impunity the way he did, going on to insult both the Zhuqiu clan and the Zhong clan. Yun Tang and Yun Ni clenched their fists tight in the crowd and looked very agitated. They seemed to have truly seen the hope. Yi Futian was from the Crimson Dragon realm, so his teacher would have definitely been a top-notch figure back at the Crimson Dragon realm. It seemed that he was just as renowned in the Heavenly Mandate realm. Furthermore, he was at Prince Qiyu's side. The prince would probably have not sided with anyone, and all who were squabbling would have had to rely on themselves. But then again, they wondered if Yi Futian's teacher alone would have sufficed to take on all those people. The holiness of nirvana of the Zhong clan stared at Qi Xiangeng, remaining silent. As a holiness of nirvana himself, he naturally sensed, in the might bursting from Qi Xiangeng, that the other man had far stronger comprehension and mastery of the great path than he did. It was apparent that that legendary figure in the royal palace who had emerged of late was more powerful than he was. A figure was seen rising in the Zhong clan's direction at that moment. He was slender and looked like an insurmountable mountain just by standing there. Everyone was shocked to see him rise. They were wondering if the palace examination would turn into a fight between top-notch figures. That man was the leader of the Zhong clan. Zhongli stood quietly and stared at Qi Xiangeng. He naturally sensed that the prince seemed to have no intention to interfere in the matter. The prince probably knew already. They were subordinates of Emperor Qi and were considered an extension of the emperor's power, as they served the emperor. But the emperor naturally knew that they would have looked for themselves as well. None of those matters could have been brought to light, and no one would have said anything about it. However, Yi Futian made clear what had happened on that day. The royal palace simply watched the events unfold, so it became clear that the prince intended to let them take care of matters on their own. If they lost, then their incompetence would be blamed, and that would serve as a good chance to knock some sense into them. Your student is indeed extremely formidable, Sir Qi, Zhongli said plainly. His voice was not loud, but everyone in that vast place was able to hear him clearly. Qi Xiangang and Yi Futian both looked at Zhongli, who had just spoken. Zhongli continued, but if Sir Qi were to find anything troublesome in the Zhong clan, you could have found another chance to bring the matter up. You could have told us straight that you intended to ask for a servant girl. It would have only taken a single word from you, Sir Qi, and I would have handed the girl over. There was no need for such commotion and insult to cultivators at the palace examination, as well as to crippled Zhong Qiu. At their level, if Qi Xiangang were to ask him to hand someone over, he would have definitely complied and handed said someone over. In his perspective, it was apparent that Qi Xiangang and Yi Futian had said what they had said as a slight towards them. Qi Xiangang was naturally aware of what lay between the lines in Zhong Li's words. He looked at Zhong Li and said, I've heard about both the Zhuqiu clan and the Zhong clan from His Highness, and he speaks highly of both clans. It is a pity that the repute seems to have eclipsed the man in the flesh. His Highness once asked how I would have compared to the Zhuqiu clan and the Zhong clan. From what I've seen today, I surely do not hope to be compared to the Zhong clan. Zhong Li looked at Qi Xiangang with slightly raised brows. He wondered if the other man was insulting him, saying that he was beneath being compared. Qi Xiangang stepped out and elaborated slowly. The Zhong clan knew that she was being forced against her will to do so, and you knew that it was not within reason and not something that should have been done. Regardless of who brought it up, you should have let the girl go and looked into the matter. Such was the way of the saints instead of how you put it. If I were to ask the Zhong clan to hand over the girl and you complied, it wouldn't have been out of reason and right or wrong, but out of face and your own interests. Prince Qiyu listened to Qi Xuangang's speech and flashed an expression of approval. The prince had found his speech and reasoning to be superb. If my student had not been able to defeat Zhong Qiu with a single hit, you would have killed him. Yet Zhong Qiu lost such a dare, and then you refused to bear the corresponding consequences. So that is to say that right or wrong are not being used to determine the outcome of the matter, but one's own power is. In that case, why berate him for insulting the Zhong clan? Wouldn't you be inviting insult to yourselves by doing so? Qi Xiangang said this as he walked, and he actually walked right past that holiness of nirvana. The holiness of nirvana watched as Qi Xiangang walked past him quietly, and his expression became rather stiff. Qi Xiangang then walked toward the Zhong clan and looked at Yun Chenyue, who was within the group of people of the Zhong clan. He asked, Are you joining the Zhong clan of your own will? Yun Chenyue looked at Qi Xiangang and said, No, sir, this is not done pf my own will. Qi Xiangang nodded, smiling before continuing, Yi Futian said you have already taken him as your teacher. Don't you think it'd be rather inappropriate to continue addressing me as, sir? Yun Chenyue was dumbfounded and looked up at Qi Xiangang. Her eyes were bloodshot, and the corners of her eyes seemed rather wet. She bowed solemnly and said, My name is Chenyue, Grandmaster. That's how it should be done. Qi Xiangang smiled and nodded. Come over here. Yes, Grandmaster. Yun Chenyue stepped forward, intending to walk past the group of people from the Zhong clan. However, several people stood in her way, and all of them burst with overwhelming pressure. That matter was not over. Zhong Qiu, a genius of the Zhong clan, had been crippled, and those from the Zhong clan were not about to just let her walk free. Qi Xiangang burst with extremely terrifying might all of a sudden at that scene. His might of the great path shrouded their surroundings. The robe he wore billowed, despite that there was no wind. He stepped forward, and beams of golden light of the great path appeared in the sky, piercing downward and causing all those beside Yun Chenyue to let out a stifled grunt. Their faces were pale as they backed away. All of them were saints. The mighty ones of the Zhong clan were shocked as they looked up. Qi Xuangang's powers were nothing short of terrifying. If you people of the Zhong clan insist on detaining the student of my student, do not blame me if I go about this the hard way. Qi Xuangang's voice was cold as he continued to walk. Those mighty ones with pale faces looked extremely frustrated. They simply looked on as Qi Xiangang kept walking. None of them dared to do anything against Yun Chenyue. The might of one person had proved more than enough to stun all of the top-notch forces. That was how terrifying cultivators at the very pinnacle were. Sir Qi, did you bother asking if I agreed to let you bully the Zhong clan's younger generation? Zhong Li's voice was cold. Powerful aura burst and lashed out at Qi Xiangang. Several holiness of nirvanas walked out as well, and all of them had terrifying aura. Their might fell not only on Qi Xiangang. Some of them went on to shroud Yi Futian with their might as well. It was as if they were saying that if Qi Xiangang dared make a move against the people of the Zhong clan, they would make a move against Yi Futian as well. Things were just as difficult for Zhong Li at the moment. If they were to simply yield in this situation, not only would they no longer be able to achieve greater heights in Emperor Qi's territory, they would lose their current status altogether as well. If they were to give in, they would essentially be falling into a ravine. Qi Xiangang would take their place and become the new symbol of the pinnacle of power in Emperor Qi's territory. A figure flashed and appeared beside Yi Futian. It was Wu Yong. His raging aura burst and was cast onto the people of the Zhong clan. Several auras burst in the crowd at the same time, all of them overbearing. One person after another took to the sky and came onto the stage after that. Boom, one of them burst in the divine flames of the sun. His eyes burned like an inferno. That person was none other than Zhu Kong, the leader of the Zhu clan of the 9 tribes. City Lord. Zhu Kong stood behind Yi Futian and cupped his hands. Zhu Kong was no longer against Yi Futian at the moment. He, too, was able to see just how great Yi Futian's potential would have been. Rather than spending his time scheming against Yi Futian, he found it more sensible to simply wait. By the time Yi Futian became very powerful, he would not bother keeping them on a leash. He might even provide them with opportunities. City Lord. Yet another person emerged. He was the Vermilion Bird tribe leader, who burst with a holiness of nirvana level of pressure as well. I was wondering if you would show up. I really didn't expect to find you here. But then again, challenging someone of your plane here? That's bullying, man. A voice was heard and sword will was sensed. Sword aura then zipped past in the air, and several swordsmen walked up to the stage. The leader was none other than Pei Min of the Sword Emperor Palace. Several others stepped up as well, walking to the stage. Yin Tianjiao was there as well. Several others followed as she walked up to the stage, staying close by her side, and said, "Princess." Apparently, after the ones who had come to the Crimson Dragon realm were scattered, they had somehow managed to make that place their meeting point after hearing that there was an event to be held in Emperor Qi's territory. They had then met up with Yi Futian coincidentally. A group of mighty ones appeared as well, and they came to Yi Futian's side. It seemed as if holiness of nirvanas were appearing one after another every now and then. The people of Emperor Qi's territory found this turn of events to be utterly baffling. Was the Zhong clan really going to fight against such odds? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. The mighty ones from the Zhong clan stood frozen as they saw more and more mighty ones from the other side showing up. They felt a massive pressure on their chests. The mighty ones from the Zhong clan stood frozen as they saw more and more mighty ones from the other side showing up. They felt a massive pressure on their chests. They were unable to fathom what was going on. What the hell was this? Why were so many mighty ones showing up all of a sudden? There were even several holiness of nirvanas standing right behind Yi Futian. All of them were addressing him as City Lord and acting very respectful toward him, as if he were their leader or something. All who had showed up seemed to know him as well. With such a lineup and Qi Xiangang added to the mix, the few holiness of nirvanas in the Zhong clan were apparently no match at all. At that moment, another group of people emerged, Prince Qi Shang and Yu Shifei of the Crimson Dragon realm. When the teleportation had gone wrong and disintegrated, they had held each other's hands, and because of that, they had remained together, showing up at the same place. They had met up with the others at the event later, and they had found more of their own. They were trying to see if they were able to find anyone from the Crimson Dragon realm among the vast crowd that day. It was apparent that everyone had shared the same thoughts and gathered at the event. Yi Futian was even bold enough to cause a scene at the event. I'd heard of the exploits of the Zhuqiu clan and the Zhong clan throughout the days I spent in the imperial city. I didn't expect to find both clans more forceful than I could have imagined. These two clans really are capable of throwing their weight around in Emperor Qi's territory. Qi Shang smiled and continued, His Majesty Emperor Qi should really keep his people in check. Qi Yu felt it rather out of place for so many mighty ones to show up one after another. All of them had exceptional bearing, and many among them felt extraordinary, especially several of the younger ones. While their training had apparently not been the strongest, their bearings were nonetheless superb, so much so that it seemed that the geniuses in Emperor Qi's territory appeared to be beneath their notice. While Emperor Qi's territory was indeed said to be a place ruled by a Renhuang, it was but one of the places ruled by a Renhuang throughout the entire Heavenly Mandate realm. There were many other stronger places, and because of that, they were unable to keep the best of the best around. If talents were to be compared, the geniuses who stood at the very pinnacle would not have been inferior to those from Emperor Qi's territory. They would have only been stronger. There were many among those who'd emerged who were descendants of Renhuang themselves. That day was the day on which the palace examination of Emperor Qi's territory was held, but it seemed that things had changed altogether. A storm had arisen all because of Yun Chenyue. To put it precisely, it was that silver-haired young man who'd caused such a scene. Just who the hell was that young man? Zhong Li's expression had turned completely glum. The Zhong clan had intended to forcibly overpower Qi Xiangang and those with him, sweeping the matter under the rug. They would have apologized to Emperor Qi at a later date. It would have been better to be caught in a disadvantage at such a place. However, this turn of events had rendered them utterly helpless. The parties were no longer in the same weight class to begin with. Even if the Zhuqiu clan were to be added the conflict, siding with the Zhong clan, they would still have lost. Now only the Zhong clan was caught in such a predicament. Those from the Zhuqiu clan sported expressions that were equally as interesting. The mighty ones from the Celestial Sword Li clan and the Yun clan of Luo City were all stunned by the turn of events before them. Telling me to keep my people in check? You people really are bold indeed. A voice was heard from afar, and everyone saw a wholly, dazzling beam of light descending from the royal palace. A figure in royal garb walked in front of them, heading towards the crowd. His appearance caused countless people throughout the vast place to bow solemnly and say, "Greetings, Your Majesty." Many mighty ones from the Zhuqiu clan, the Zhong clan, and the others bowed one after another as well. Emperor Qi came before them with a single step. Qi Yu rose as well and called out to the person right before him, "Father." Emperor Qi nodded slightly to the crowd, waving his hand to tell everyone to be at ease. His eyes then turned towards Yi Futian, Qi Shang, and the others. "Greetings, Your Majesty. I'm Qi Shang from the Crimson Dragon realm," Qi Shang said and bowed. "Greetings, Your Majesty. I'm Yi Futian." Yi Futian bowed as well. While those people had been there causing a ruckus, they were nonetheless still very polite, seeing a true Renhuang, showing appropriate manners and respect. Emperor Qi smiled and said, "You sure are bold. I assume you're a member of the royal family in the Crimson Dragon clan then? Would you mind doing the introductions, Sir Qi?" Qi Xiangang nodded and looked at Qi Shang, saying, "This is His Highness, Prince Qi Shang of the Royal Palace of Crimson Dragon Realm in the Crimson Dragon region. The one by his side is his wife. The others are all from the Crimson Dragon region. Yi Futian is my student, and he hails from Emperor Xia's realm in Crimson Dragon region. All of them are here in the Heavenly Mandate realm on a pilgrimage. The ancient road of space that we were on disintegrated. We were scattered all over the place, and we all gathered here today. So that is to say that there are probably several children of Renhuang in the Crimson Dragon realm then?" Emperor Qi asked and smiled, turning his eyes to several of them. He was able to feel something special from those few. Indeed. Qi Xiangang nodded, and crowd was rattled. Several children of Renhuang? No one had expected the lineup that had showed up out of nowhere to be so terrifying, and it looked rather ridiculous. The Zhuqiu clan and the Zhong clan had no doubt been very much of a big deal in Emperor Qi's territory, but they were rather tiny when compared to the ones on the other side. It was no surprise that Yi Futian showed neither fear nor respect for them, or that he had even gone on to make sarcastic jabs at them. They were curious what kind of a character Yi Futian had been in the Crimson Dragon region. They were curious about his status. Seems like you have your own motives for coming to the royal palace then, Sir Yi. You people have taken the venue where the palace examination was to be held to be your meeting place, I see, Emperor Qi continued, looking at them. I beg your forgiveness, Your Majesty, Qi Shengang said and bowed slightly. You've made it a point not to stay here for long, so what can I fault you for? However, that student of yours really is a cocky one, stirring up all that trouble in the palace examination. Emperor Qi turned his attention to Yi Futian and asked, someone who was able to overpower top-notch geniuses from Emperor Qi's territory? What is the status of this student of yours, Sir Qi? No status worth mentioning. He is but a cultivator from Emperor Xia's realm who joined the Crimson Dragon realm, Qi Shengang answered. You refuse to tell me the truth then? Emperor Qi looked at him and the few holiness of nirvanas around him. All of them had emerged only because of him, just as a show of force. Qi Shengang had actually said that someone like that was of no status worth mentioning. If you really would like to know of his status, Your Majesty, then I'd say that Yi Futian is someone who loved stirring up trouble back in the Crimson Dragon realm. He is a city lord who has a great many mighty ones serving him. Qi Shang smiled and continued, by the way, Yi Futian is also the #1 cultivator in his generation in the Crimson Dragon region. A genius who stands at the very pinnacle, if you would. I'm afraid none in the palace examination would be able to compare to him, let alone Zhong Qiu of the Zhong clan. #1 cultivator. Qi Shang spoke so highly of Yi Futian that hardly any appraisal could have surpassed what he'd said. That #1 apparently took the prince into consideration, so it was saying that the prince was inferior to Yi Futian. Furthermore, he had said Crimson Dragon region instead of Crimson Dragon realm. Emperor Qi knew, naturally, that there were a great many top-notch geniuses gathered from all over the Crimson Dragon region in that realm, yet Qi Shang still claimed that Yi Futian was the #1 young cultivator in the Crimson Dragon region. That appraisal alone spoke volumes about how tremendously powerful Yi Futian was. It was no surprise that Zhong Qiu had not been able to withstand even a single hit. He really was unfortunate for having met someone like that. The corner of Zhuqiu Yan's mouth twitched. He had been rather dismissive of Yi Futian until the other man had actually taken down Zhong Qiu with a single hit. Only then had Zhuqiu Yan felt truly shaken. Sir Yi, #1 in Crimson Dragon region. Yun Chenyue's expression turned rather dazed, wondering if this was truly the soft-spoken and polite Sir Yi that she knew. All of the mighty ones from the Crimson Dragon region, even the likes of princes, were proud of him. That being said, Sir Ye's talents would have definitely overpowered many geniuses throughout the Crimson Dragon region then. So that is how it is. Emperor Qi smiled and said, in that case, the palace examination today has turned out rather meaningful, for we are able to see how different those from this territory are compared to the #1 in the Crimson Dragon region. You all should be more diligent in your training from here on out in order to prevent what happened today from happening again. Your emperor is losing face today. We will definitely do our best to scout geniuses within the territory, Your Majesty, the leader of the Zhuqiu clan said to Emperor Qi and bowed. While what Qi Shang said sounded rather unpleasant to the ear, it would seem that he has a point. I really do need to keep my people in check, Emperor Qi said. The states of mind of the mighty ones from both the Zhuqiu clan and the Zhong clan continued to plunge after they heard that. We're responsible for what happened today. Please see to it that we're punished, Your Majesty, the leader of the Zhuqiu clan said, asking to be punished voluntarily. Qi Yu, have someone investigate the Zhuqiu clan's abuse of power by trading candidate slots for the palace examination, and do everything in your power to cooperate. Zhuqiu, you have been following me for many years, and it is impossible for you not to do anything wrong at all. I simply hope that you know where your responsibilities lie. Emperor Qi continued, as for the Zhong clan, there will no longer be any need for them to participate in anything related to the territory. Qi Yu, look into the training methods of the Zhong clan and see if they have been forcing or threatening others in anything. Yes, father. Qiyu rose and nodded. Zhong Li's expression became as pale as paper. The mighty ones of the Zhong clan were all shuddering slightly. That was the end of them. The emperor had stripped the Zhong clan of all their power right there and then. Furthermore, there was also to be an investigation into their clan, and all of them knew what they had done so far. That large clan had had many shady dealings in the past. If any of that were to be brought to light, the emperor would surely not let them off easy. The emperor had truly taken advantage of the commotion to straighten his people out. Finally, I shall see to it that the palace examination is organized again at a later date, and the selection shall be done fairly, Emperor Qi said to the crowd. All hail our wise emperor. One person after another bowed. Hope lit up in the hearts of many. Yun Teng and Yun and I both smiled. It seemed that Qianyue would turn out all right after all. The Zhong clan would face extremely severe punishments. Yun Qianyue had already walked back to Yi Futian on the platform. She looked at Yi Futian with teary eyes, but there was a smile on her face as well. She asked, "Are you really willing to take me as your student, sir?" "I am indeed." Yi Futian smiled and said, "But while I've agreed to take you as my student, you'll still be relying on yourself to further your training, for I won't be able to take you with me." "Indeed." Yun Qianyue nodded. "I understand." She did not dare ask for more. "Let her stay in the royal palace and train under me then," Emperor Qi said. Yi Futian and Yun Qianyue were both dumbfounded as they looked at Emperor Qi. "The Zhong clan served me, and I was at fault in this as well. Just take it as compensation," Emperor Qi said. "You indeed are generous and fair, Your Majesty." Yi Futian bowed and continued, "Thank you very much, Your Majesty." Yun Qianyue smiled as well. Her eyes seemed to become even wetter as she smiled. Her family had thrown her away and sent her off to become a servant girl in order for Yun Mo to get a chance at the palace examination. Right then, however, she had acquired the right to train by Emperor Qi's side. It all just seemed so ironic. The Yun clan looked upon the scene with ashen faces. No one could have comprehended what they felt. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Old Man Yun looked at the platform and saw Emperor Qi declaring that he would allow Yun Qianyue to train under him. That promise held great significance, more so than passing the palace examination and being allowed to train under the emperor. Old Man Yun looked at the platform and saw Emperor Qi declaring that he would allow Yun Qianyue to train under him. That promise held great significance, more so than passing the palace examination and being allowed to train under the emperor. What happened on that day caused Yun Qianyue's status to skyrocket, enabling her to get close to the royal family. This was something that the Yun clan had wanted to do all this time, as they'd wanted to send younger members of their clan to train under the emperor. That wish had finally come true, yet it was not something that had happened because of their efforts. On the contrary, they had cast her out cruelly, sending her away as a sacrifice so that they would have a shot at achieving that. Yun Qianyue would probably hate her family's guts. They took a look at Yun Mo, who had been thoroughly rid of his training. Revenge was out of the question without a doubt. If Yi Futian were to truly sit down and settle the matter with them, they probably would not have been able to emerge unscathed. That lineup had overpowered even the Zhuqiu clan and the Zhong clan, making even the emperor himself appear. All of that showed how absolutely terrifying those people were. Their backing was so strong that even Emperor Qi, a lord of a territory in Heavenly Mandate Realm, had to show respect. Yun Chang's face was ashen, and he despaired, wondering how things had turned out this way. Two figures walked in his direction, Yun Teng and Yun and I. Yun Teng still looked rather angry, judging from how they looked at the rest of the Yun clan. He said coldly, "Qianyue's father sacrificed himself for the clan. And now you people have sent Qianyue to the Zhong clan to be a servant girl for the sake of the clan. It occurs to me all of a sudden that we've been getting close to the Zhong clan, wanting to establish a connection between us and them. The clan might have been planning for this for a long time, waiting for the pieces to fall in the palace examination." Yun Teng looked rather sarcastic as he continued, "It is indeed ironic. The one who was cast away by the clan and saved by an outsider. If it had not been for Yi Futian, I'm sure you all would have been smiling from ear to ear instead, feeling not the slightest bit of remorse or sorrow, but only joy from seeing your goals accomplished. From this day forth, my family shall sever all ties with the Yun clan of Luo City. I wish the clan great success and prosperity. Both Yun Teng and Yun and I turned around and left right away, not at all reluctant. Yun and I would especially hate them for what they had done. Her husband had died for the clan, and her daughter had changed her surname, and all of that had only resulted in her being cast away by the clan as a sacrifice. It was pathetic indeed. It was fortunate that they had Sir Yi on their side. She looked up at the silver-haired man up on the platform. Her eyes were filled only with gratitude. She too was able to figure out that the clan had been planning this for a very long time. None of that had anything to do with Yi Futian being threatened by the Celestial Swordly clan. That incident was but a convenient excuse. Even without Li Rushuang in the picture, the clan would have sent Qianyue away all the same, just so that Yun Mo was able to have a bright future. At yet another corner, the people of the Celestial Swordly clan were feeling just as frustrated. Emperor Qi had ordered for the Zuoqiu clan to be subjected to investigations. The alliance was rendered null without a doubt. Both clans would want to have nothing to do with each other at that point. It was clear that they would have intended to sever all connections with each other just to avoid being punished by the emperor for having conspired with one another. Other than that, Yi Futian had once reminded them, Li Rushuang of the Celestial Swordly clan had wanted to kill him once, going all the way to the Yun clan to take him away and telling the Yun clan to know their place. Li Rushuang was the most extraordinary figure in their clan from that generation, and everyone wondered how the rest of her clan would deal with her. If they were to simply ignore Yi Futian, that lineup of his was more than enough to take them out as easy as pinching an ant to death. Furthermore, no one would have anything to say about it. One wrong step and it would be the end of them. Li Rushuang walked back to her clan and saw that all eyes in her clan were on her. She was perceptive enough to tell that something was out of place. Those eyes did not look like they'd used to. She frowned hard, and her mind cleared in an instant. She knew that those looks they were giving her had something to do with Yi Futian. She had once been the pride of her clan, yet at that moment, her clan was probably afraid of being dragged into her mess, and they were thinking of what to do with her. She felt a bone-chilling cold in her mind. Making minor sacrifices to safeguard major interests? She had been reduced to a minor sacrifice to her clan. She stopped and looked at all those faces before her, feeling as if they were those of strangers. What happened with the Renhuang mural at the ridge was my own doing, and I shall shoulder the responsibility all on my own. From this day forth I, Li Rushuang, will no longer be a member of the Celestial Swordly clan. Everything I have done will have had nothing to do with the Celestial Swordly clan, Li Rushuang said, making a snap decision right then and there. It would have been very dangerous for her to return to her clan, as it was extremely possible for her clan to make her a scapegoat in order to keep their clan out of that mess. As such, she made the decision to sever her connection with her clan instead. She turned around after she finished saying all of that and began walking, intending to leave right away on her own. Thinking of just leaving like that? A cold voice was heard. Yi Futian turned to look at Li Rushuang. He'd heard that Li Rushuang was a decisive person, capable of making decisions quickly and follow through with them. She was also brutal and had shown no mercy when she intended to kill him back then. She'd gone to the Yun clan just to take him away, and then he'd attempted to set the Yun clan up just to offend the Zuoqiu clan. All of her actions showed that she was merciless with her dealings. At present, she had severed ties with her clan, intending to escape in one piece. Li Rushuang stopped and turned around to look at Yi Futian, saying, "It was indeed you who destroyed the Renhuang mural, and it was completely normal that I put the blame on you in my anger. I'm willing to cut my hair as a token of apology." She then put her hand behind her head and held her hair. A sword materialized in her other hand, and she cut off her long hair right away. Her jet black hair billowed in the air. After Li Rushuang cut her hair, her then shoulder-length hair was left hanging loose, giving her the frail grace of a woman and making her look pitiful and downtrodden, preventing others from making a move on her. However, Yi Futian's expression remained unchanged. One state of mind was unusually steely when they had trained all the way to sainthood. Every single action a saint took would have come from their own will, and none would have thought that they had been wrong in doing anything. That action of cutting her hair off was but a ploy to buy time. Her pitiful appearance was only a tool to allow her to live. Li Rushuang was indeed brutal. However, Yi Futian's expression remained as it had always been, without a single hint of moving in any way. It was as if he were saying, "You think doing this is going to appeal to my kindness?" Li Rushuang had not looked like that at all when she'd ordered him killed. "Is that mural something that belonged to you in the first place, Li Rushuang?" Yi Futian asked. She was startled and speechless. "That thing belonged to no one, and yet you sound so matter-of-fact nonetheless. Completely normal, huh?" Yi Futian jabbed at her sarcastically and continued, "I'm now offering you a chance. If you can take one hit from my sword and live, I'll let you leave." One hit from his sword. Li Rushuang's expression became pointed. As a mighty one from the celestial swordly clan, she was trained in the way of the sword, and yet, Yi Futian was getting ready to deal with her using swords. "So be it." Li Rushuang nodded. Sword aura whipped about and gathered behind her as soon as she finished talking. Her life spirit appeared, and the sword will all around was solidified into a terrifying screen of swords, pulsing with the frightening light of the sword as they zipped about. Those were not swords meant for defense. They were swords meant for killing. As a swordswoman, she knew well that the greatest defense available to wielders of swords was none other than offense. Her swords burst in an instant without waiting for Yi Futian to do anything. She charged straight at Yi Futian in a decisive manner. Yi Futian as only able to use one move with the swords. Many around them praised her deep down, seeing how she moved. Regardless of her character, the fact that she was extremely talented had not changed at all. She was indeed someone born to be a cultivator. Yi Futian remained unfazed as he watched Li Rushuang make her move. He took one step forward, and swords of Cassiopeia were conjured around him, zipping through the air. They burst through Li Rushuang's river of swords one after another, moving forward in a special pattern, taking formations and coming at her like an autumn gale. The swords of Cassiopeia reflected in Li Rushuang's eyes continued to grow in size. She was thoroughly frightened and backed away in a hurry. However, the swords of Cassiopeia were unnervingly fast, and they arrived before her in an instant, piercing the aura of swords all around her as they burst through her body. Her body shuddered unceasingly within an instant. Her blood stained her clothes, and she looked pathetic. The aura all over her was dispelled, and she grew increasingly weak. Wrinkles began to appear on her face. She lost her youthful appearance altogether, as if she had gotten 10 years older within an instant. The life force within her body had all been destroyed by the sword wills. She looked completely ashen as she reached out to sense the remaining aura in her body. She was not even able to stand still by then. The sword wills were dispelled, and Yi Futian continued to eye Li Rushuang. There was hardly any pity in his eyes. Li Rushuang looked up at him with a vicious look on her face. She stood and hobbled away without saying anything. Despite being severely injured, her training disposed of, she still had hope that she would be able to train again. Yi Futian turned around, not looking at her anymore. "How many abilities are you versed in, sir?" Yun Qianyue, who was by his side, asked. She had only been asking Yi Futian to guide her in the ways of thunder. Yet it was the way of entropy and the halberd of time and space that Yi Futian had defeated Zhong Qiu with. At that moment, he'd showed his abilities with the sword as well. Yi Futian did not correct the way she addressed him, thinking that she had probably gotten used to it. "I'm versed in quite a few powers," Yi Futian said and smiled. He then looked at Emperor Qi, bowing and saying, "I'm truly sorry for getting you involved in what happened today, Your Majesty, and I'd like to beg your forgiveness. You people have indeed caused me, an emperor, to lose a lot of face. But then again, it worked well to stimulate them for a bit." Emperor Qi continued, "Since you have come all the way from the Crimson Dragon realm and something wrong happened with the Grand Matrix of Space, I'm sure that there are others of yours who are still out there. How about you train in the royal palace for a bit? What just happened here will have spread like wildfire soon enough. Other than that, I shall have my people to hasten the spread of the news." Doing so will allow those friends of yours who did not show today to find this place before long. It is indeed best that we have your help, your majesty, Yi Futian said. They were in Emperor Qi's territory, and if the emperor was willing to help, those who hadn't showed that day would come soon enough. I'm not doing this for free. Please take your time to spar with the cultivators in the royal palace while you are training here. Have them experience what the strongest genius from the lower worlds is like, just to prevent them from developing a holier-than-thou attitude and thinking themselves to be peerless. Emperor Qi smiled as he elaborated. Many studied under him, and there were indeed some who possessed extreme talents among them, whom he'd taken in as personal students. Other than that, the emperor had descendants of his own, after all. It was great that Yi Futian and the others around him were the strongest of geniuses to be found in the Crimson Dragon realm, allowing them to spar with those of Emperor Qi at a similar age. Such training would allow them to have a better idea of who was stronger, and that would benefit their training further. All right. Yi Futian nodded. He saw no reason to refuse such a minor request. Let's go, Emperor Qi said, and one figure after another stepped out. The crowd all over the vast place felt like they had not gotten enough. While the palace examination was interrupted, everything that had happened after the examination was even more extraordinary. They knew that from then on out, both the Zhuqiu clan and the Zhong clan, which had been standing on the pinnacle in Emperor Qi's territory, would fall into decline sooner or later, and the Zhong clan would suffer even more. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. The mountain range in Emperor Qi's territory was sparsely inhabited. Cultivators rarely came here, and only recluses or silent seekers would cultivate in the mountains. The mountain range in Emperor Qi's territory was sparsely inhabited. Cultivators rarely came here, and only recluses or silent seekers would cultivate in the mountains. At this moment, many people got down from the top of one mountain. Their robes were blowing in the wind. Divine might was being released from their body, extremely intimidating. They kept glancing around, forceful minds rushing out from their heads and enveloping the endless space. They seemed to be looking for something. He is hurt. He can't escape too far. Maybe he is still in the mountain range. You go find him separately, said the leader of the group. People nodded and soon flashed toward different locations. They released their life forces without disguise at the same time, so even though they were far away, they could still perceive the life forces from others and support each other instantly. The leader looked quite young. He looked cold and had an intimidating life force. Many warriors were searching in the mountains, one of whom was an old warrior in a black robe. His body flashed in the air, fast like lightning. When he came to a land of valley, he seemed to perceive a faint wisp of life force. He immediately looked up in alert and darted toward that direction. There was a river in the deep of the valley. The old warrior in the black robe arrived on the bank above the river. He restrained the life force from his body and looked down, and then he saw a figure sitting there with his back to him. The life force was suspended around his body. It seemed he was healing himself. His clothes were still tinged with bloodstains. The old man resumed his steps. His stare was cold, fixed on the figure in front of him. That man in white seemed to have noticed. He slowly turned around and stared at him coldly. Boom! The old man's life force exploded to the full and surged out. The divine might arrived. He raised one palm and thrust it out. It turned into a golden wheel and smashed the space. The man in white also raised his hand and thrust forward. Suddenly, 9 palm prints showed up in the sky and turned into one. The great law resonated and trembled the void sky. His palm print collided with the golden wheel print and made a booming sound. "Why don't you surrender now?" the old man shouted. His palm print swept forward and crushed the young man's palm print. The young man let out a low humph, but his palm print was still firm. Cold, killing thought flashed across his eyes. Suddenly, the old warrior seemed to perceive something, and his face turned pale. His mind glanced behind, and when he tried to retrieve the palm print, he found that the person's palm was sticking tight onto his palm. He hastily thrust out the left hand, but at that moment, a white phantom flashed in front of him and disappeared. Peeking! After a clear penetrating sound, blood oozed from the old warrior's neck. His head fell, and the white phantom merged into the figure in white and became a part of it. He coughed. A dribble of blood fell from his mouth. He took an emotionless glance into the distance and turned around, flashing away. His life force was concealed, and his speed was super fast. Until now, he still had no idea why the person who came to the heavenly mandate realm with him suddenly sent people to capture him. He didn't offend him, and since he just came here, he didn't have enemies. What on earth was it? Even though he didn't know the answer, he could do nothing but escape. First, escape from this mountain range, and then disguise himself, hide in the crowds until they couldn't find him. It was not long after he escaped that a group of warriors came. The leader arrived. He saw the old warrior's corpse on the ground, of which the head had fallen to one side. He had been decapitated. The leader's face looked extremely sullen. They had wasted a few Saint Plain warriors, but they had not caught him yet. Go! He gave the order and flashed into the air, chasing after the residue of the man's life force left between the sky and earth. To be more exact, the imperial palace of Emperor Qi's territory should be called a city within a city. The imperial palace was a vast district covering hundreds of acres. There were countless lofty palaces in this area and abundant cultivation resources. Besides, the imperial palace was enveloped by one giant matrix, full of the thick nimbus of the universe. Even the will of the law was everywhere, permeating the whole space. It was a perfect land for cultivation, just like the earthly paradise described in legends. But it was not beyond Yi Futian's expectation. Renwang's dwelling place was often like this. He used to cultivate in the regional king's palace. In the regional king's palace, wills of flame were also everywhere, extremely thick in the air. It was also one of the reasons warriors of Emperor Qi's territory all wanted to attend the palace examination and cultivate under Emperor Qi's throne. They would not only learn Emperor Qi's teachings and cultivate in this zone but also get bigger opportunities if they performed well enough and had enough talent. Many eminent figures had come from this imperial palace. And at this moment, in the imperial palace, Yi Futian and other warriors were staying in a provisional palace. During these days, from time to time, some people came here to visit and practice cultivation skills. They were all full of pride when they just came here. But they all looked quite depressed and enervated when they left, their heads lowered. Soon, warriors stopped visiting this provisional palace. The people here were too tough to mess up with. Yi Futian's companions from the Crimson Dragon realm gradually all arrived. Since Emperor Qi helped release information in person, and also because what happened in palace examination had shocked the whole territory, everyone who got a clue immediately rushed to the imperial palace and found the people they were looking for. The warriors who came from Thousand Leaves City with Yi Futian were almost all here. Xia Qingyuan arrived too. In fact, she had been in the imperial city on the day of the palace examination. Still no news? Yi Futian asked the Sword Saint of Cottage Villa. He went outside to seek information and had just come back. The Sword Saint of Cottage Villa shook his head and said, "Not yet. Dong Lu is always careful when doing things. If he had heard about the battle, he must have attempted to come here. Unless something stopped him." Now, the third brother Gu Donglu was the only person who had not arrived yet. Other people were all here. The third brother's real strength was not weak. He should be able to protect himself if nothing serious happened. But Yi Futian was still worried about him since they were in the heavenly mandate realm where strong warriors were everywhere. If he had met a person like Li Rushuang, it would mean big trouble. Was it possible that he was sent to other territories by the collapsed spatial road? Asked Yi Futian in a low voice. Maybe, said the Sword Saint, nodding. A cultivator should be fine being alone outside, but he was still a little worried about Gu Donglu, who didn't come here to meet them. At that moment, someone walked to them. Mr. Yi. That person saluted him from a distance. Yi Futian walked forward. He knew the person belonged to the imperial palace. His Majesty has prepared a banquet and invites you and other heroes to come, he said. Yi Futian listened and asked, "What time?" "You can depart now if you are free," he continued. "All right," said Yi Futian, nodding. He needed to show respect for Emperor Qi. This time, Emperor Qi penalized the Zhuqiu clan and the Zhong clan. The power of both clans had been weakened, especially the Zhong clan, which had left the center of politics. But, of course, Yi Futian would not think it was all for him. Maybe these two clans had fallen out of Emperor Qi's favor for long, but they worked for him and did things in his name, just like in the palace examination. So, Emperor Qi just took the chance to give them an alert and enervate their power and voices. Yi Futian and others departed and soon came to the Emperor Qi's dwelling Renhuang Palace. The banquet was ready. Many warriors sat on both sides of the banquet. People of the Crimson Dragon realm had all arrived. They scattered and sat in different seats. Yi Futian, what is your plan? Qi Shang asked Yi Futian. He was sitting with Yu Shifei, opposite Yi Futian. I don't have a specific plan, but I want to figure out what powers of the heavenly mandate realm were like first, said Yi Futian in a low voice. Said Qi Shang, nodding. This time, we just came here for cultivation and training, so we don't have a strong intention. We are ready to leave here after today and go to different locations for cultivation. Okay, said Yi Futian. He knew it was not convenient for so many people to cultivate together. Although many people came from the Crimson Dragon realm, they belonged to different powers, and they didn't have to stay together. When you come back to Crimson Dragon realm, I hope to see you become the top warrior below Renhuang in Crimson Dragon realm, said Qi Shang, laughing. Yi Futian didn't say anything. Perhaps he needed a lot more time to reach that level. He didn't know if his master Qi Xiangang had ability like that. When they headed toward the banquet, in the Imperial City district of Emperor Qi's territory, a figure in white swiftly flashed toward the Imperial Palace. However, he was stopped outside the palace. The man in white was Gu Donglu. The life force suspended around his body, and his white clothes were stained by blood. There seemed to be a gust of appalling life force rushing toward him. This is the Imperial Palace. You are not allowed to enter, a guard outside the Imperial Palace said to Gu Donglu with a long spear in hand. I came from the Crimson Dragon realm. I am here to find people, said Gu Donglu. He got the news on his way and ran here. The guards took a look at each other and slightly nodded. They left some space for him. One of them turned around and said, "Follow me." And then, Gu Donglu followed him to the Imperial Palace territory. Just after they stepped inside, the group of people following him arrived. The ones at the front line paused their steps, frowning. This district belonged to Emperor Qi's territory. It was Emperor Qi's Imperial Palace. Many Renhuang's Imperial Palaces in the Heavenly Mandate realm were independently established spaces, prohibiting unknown visitors from trespassing. A figure arrived from the void sky. The life force being emitted from the person's body was very appalling. His eyes revealed a horrifying gleam. His stare was fixed on Emperor Qi's territory ahead of him. Other people turned their heads and looked at him. He took a stride forward and kept moving. Not to mention the Imperial Palace of Emperor Qi's territory, they were going to catch him anyway, even if he ran right in front of Emperor Qi. Who knew if the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven knew his existence? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.